welcome to Pre-Intermediate 3. My name is Jamie. Maybe some of you I taught in Elementary 2, and if so, then congratulations. I'm sure you have improved a lot since then. And to the new students, as I said, my name is Jamie, and I will be teaching you for this level, Pre-Intermediate 3. In Pre-Intermediate 3, we're going to look at the last 4 chapters of the Pre-Intermediate book. So 9, 10, 11, and 12. I'm going to learn 4 new points of grammar. And some quite important grammar comes up this month. So I'd like you to open your student's book to page 70, and we'll get started with the first page of Unit 9. And as usual, we're going to start the unit with a small exercise just to see how much you already know. So if you look at the starter exercise at the top of the page, please. Okay, so you can see on the left hand side we have 3 sentences. 2 sentences start with if, and the third sentence starts with when. If you look at the notes box on the right hand side, I've given you an idea about the difference between if and when. So for example, if I go out means it's possible that I will go out, but I'm not sure. Whereas when I go out means I'm going out, and this time I'm sure. And the second part of the sentences on the right hand side, we have I think I will probably, and I'm going to. So, first question before we get started. What kind of verb do we usually use after will or going to? Yes, you're exactly right. We use the infinitive verb. So, I would like you to complete the sentences using your own ideas, please. Okay, now you have completed your sentences. I'd like you to read your sentences to your partner, please. And I've given you some example sentences. So, number 1, if the weather is nice this weekend, I think I'll go to the beach. If the weather isn't nice this weekend, I'll probably watch a movie. Stay at home and watch a movie. And when I get home tonight, I'm going to cook my dinner. Okay, today we're going to read about 2 people, James and Jesse. They are both 18 and have just finished high school. And both of them are going to have a gap year before they go to university. Okay, before we read about their plans for their gap year, there are a few new words that I would like to explain for you. The first one is a gap year. And a gap year is usually taken after high school and before university. So this is when people take a break from studying. Some people, they go traveling, some people work, some people do a mixture of both. The next word is book. We all know book as a noun, but book as a verb is the same meaning as to reserve. For example, if I want to go to a very busy restaurant on a Friday evening, then maybe I should book a table before I go. So when I get there, there is a table waiting for me. The next one is keep in touch. Keep in touch means to contact your friends or family when you are away from them. So by sending emails, messages, phone calls, we can keep in touch with our family and friends. And the last one is an old people's home. An old people's home is a house for old people, and they are looked after every day, 24 hours a day, by people who work at the old people's home. So there is a bedroom for each old person, there's a living room, they all eat together, and basically they are taken care of in this home. Okay, so what I would like you to do, I would like you to look at the photos of both James on this page and Jesse on the next page, and discuss with your partner what are their plans for their gap year. So first what we're going to do is we're going to listen to James talking about some of his plans for his gap year. And in exercise 2, I'd like you to match from the green box to the orange box, please.
Unit 9. Going Places. Tape script 9.1. James.
Well, I speak Spanish quite well, so before I go to university, I'm going to travel around South America. I've got an old school friend in Brazil and a pen friend in Guatemala, so I have some people to visit. I also want to go and see the rainforest. I'm working in a local restaurant at the moment, but as soon as I have enough money, I'll book a flight to Rio de Janeiro. I'll spend about a month in Brazil, then go on to Guatemala, I think. I'm so looking forward to going. It'll be fantastic. When I'm travelling around, I'll phone home twice a week. If I don't keep in touch, I know my parents will worry.
Okay, so now what I'd like you to do is check with your partner and see if you have the same answers, please. Okay, now you've checked with your partner, I'd like you to cover the orange box. So use your book or use your hands to cover the orange box, like this. And I would like you to try and read the sentences. Try and remember what was in the orange boxes. Again, if you do this with your partner, please. Okay, and maybe just check to see if you were correct or how you got on. Okay, now we're going to listen to Jesse, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to match from the orange box to the green box as before. Okay, so let's listen to Jesse.
Tape script 9.2. Jesse.
I want to do something useful before I go to college next year. So I'm going to work in an old people's home as soon as I finish school. My job is to work with the nurses and help the people get dressed, and I'll go for walks with them, things like that. The job starts in July and it's for at least 9 months. I'll also live in the home while I'm working there. I'll work until I've saved enough money for a holiday. I'm going to Greece with some friends after the job ends. I'll need to relax. I won't be tired if I have a holiday before term starts.
Okay, and again, I would like you to cover the orange box, and this time is a little bit more difficult. You have to cover the orange box and try and remember the full sentences. Okay, if you do that with your partner, please. Okay, and you can check to see if you were correct or not. Okay, now we're going to turn to page 71, and we're going to look at some of the grammar which Jesse and James used when they were talking about their plans for their gap year. So please look at the grammar spots on the top of page 71. Okay, in number 1, I would like you to look at James and Jesse's plans again from exercise 2 and 3, and I'd like you to underline the words that introduce the clauses in the green boxes. Now, if you look in the notes box on the right hand side of the screen, you can see, just remember that a clause is subject plus verb plus object. So there are two examples here for you. Before I go to university, I is the subject, go is the verb, and university is the object. The word that introduces this clause is before. So again, look at the green boxes on page 70 and underline the words which introduce the clauses. Okay, so if you look on screen, you can check your answers. So here we have some different words introducing the clauses. These words are called time conjunctions. So we have before, as soon as, when, if, until, and while. Okay, let's have a look at these words together then, please. Okay, so let's have a look at these time conjunctions. Some of them are familiar for you, and some of them are new. So for example, when. When means at the time that. If, we talked about before, it's possible that I might do this thing. Before, I think you know this one. After, you know this one. Okay, as soon as. As soon as means immediately at or just after the time that. Okay, so for example, as soon as I get home, I will cook dinner. While means during the time that. So for example, while you were sleeping, I was at work. Until means up to the time that. For example, I will wait for you until you are ready. And when we use these words, after we use these words, we use a present verb. So we use the present with a future meaning after these words. For example, when I get home tonight, I'm going to cook dinner. So here, I get home is present simple, but when I get home tonight is of course talking about the future. Rick is going to stay in my house while I am away. I am is present, but while I am away is the future. Okay, now if we look at the grammar box, grammar spot, and number 3. So I'd like you to, with your partner, look at the orange boxes on page 70 and find out and discuss which different future forms are used in the orange boxes. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to do this. Okay, so you can check your answers on screen. We had here 3 different future forms. Will, for example, sentence 1 and 2. We had going to for future. And also we had present continuous. For example, the 4th sentence in Jesse's box. So I'm going to Greece with some friends. This is present continuous for the future. Okay, lastly, question 4 in the grammar spot. We talked about this at the beginning of today's lesson. So what's the difference between the sentences underneath? When I go travelling, I will send you lots of postcards. If I go travelling, I'll send you lots of postcards. Which one is sure? Yes, exactly. When we use when, we are sure. However, when we use if, it's possible. So when I go travelling, I'm sure I'm going travelling. If I go travelling, I might go travelling or I might not. It's possible. Okay, so far we've talked about some different words that we use for different situations. I'm thinking here about if and when. Also, we've talked about some time conjunctions, for example, as soon as, while, until. When we put these together, we come up with something which is called the first conditional, and it's a very special type of grammar. And on screen I've given you an outline of what exactly we need to make the first conditional, and also why we use it. So, for the positive sentences, we need if plus present simple, will plus infinitive verb. For example, if it rains at the weekend, I'll stay at home. The negative, if plus present simple, won't plus infinitive. For example, if I fail my exams, I won't go to university. And the question, much like any other question, is first question word, then the auxiliary verb, which is will, the subject, infinitive verb, if plus present simple. For example, where will you stay if all the hotels are full? And the positive and the negative can be written in a different order. For example, the first one I gave you was if it rains at the weekend, I'll stay at home. Also, we can say I'll stay at home if it rains at the weekend. Just notice that if you use if at the beginning of the sentence, you need a comma after the first clause. If you use if in the middle of the sentence, you don't need a comma. Okay, and we use the first conditional to talk about a possible situation. That's a situation that can happen or is likely to happen, and its probable result. Okay, so if you take a note of what you can see on screen, please. Okay, now we're going to do some practice for the first conditional. So, first, if we look at the left-hand side and the sentences with the brown arrows. So here we have some hopes, some ambitions for the future, and they are all based on different situations. For example, if I don't go out so much, I'll do more work. If I do more work, I'll pass my exams. If I pass my exams, so you can see that the first one you need to link to the second. When that situation becomes true, you can just say if this one and then link to the next one. Okay, so I'll give you a minute. I'd like you to write this one in your notebook, please. So look at the example here and try to link all of the ideas together until the end. And you should have altogether 6 sentences. Okay, and I'd like you to check your answers on screen. So here are the 6 sentences you should have made in your notebook. Okay, and what I'd like you to do now is with your partner, I'd like you to practice the purple arrows. This time I don't want you to write anything, I just want you to read the sentence, so take it in turns. Partner A, make one sentence. Partner B, make the following sentence. Okay, and again, you should have 6 sentences. Okay, so you should have had, if I spend less on new clothes, I will have more money. If I have more money, I'll save some every week. If I save some every week, I will be rich when I'm 30. If I am rich when I'm 30, I'll start my own business. If I start my own business, I'll make a lot of money. If I make a lot of money, I will retire when I'm 50. Okay, now we're going to do some practice of asking first conditional questions. So before we get started, there are some new words in the notes box on the right hand side of your screen. So the first word is safari. Safari is a type of trip where you go somewhere in Africa, and you're inside a car, and you can go out and you can see different animals, for example, elephants, lions, cheetahs, and you see them living in the wild, not in the zoo, in their natural habitat. The next verb is chase. To chase means to run after. For example, if someone steals your friend or your wife's handbag, maybe you will chase them and try to catch them. The next one is wild animals. Wild animals are animals that are not don't live in your home and don't live in the zoo. They live in the wild. The next word, insects, are things like ants, flies, mosquitoes, these type of things. They're called insects. Spiders also. Sunburnt is when you get too much sun and your skin changes to red color. So for example, me, I'm from Scotland. I don't get much sun. When I go to a hot place, my skin will turn red if I'm not careful. The bush you can see actually in the picture here. The bush is an large area with lots of grass and not many trees and certainly no buildings and no people. The next one, breakdown. Breakdown is when your car stops working. Something happens with the engine, something happens with there's some problem with your car will break down. And a tent is what you sleep under when you sleep outside when you are camping, for example. You sleep in a tent. Okay, so what I'd like you to do, you're going to work with your partner. One of you is going on safari to Africa, and the other one is really worried about you. So they're going to ask lots of questions about how you will deal with certain situations. So they're going to give you a possible situation, and you have to tell them what you would do in this situation. For example, here we have an example conversation. So person A says, I'm going on safari to Africa. Person B, oh dear, what will you do if you get chased by wild animals? And A says, it will be okay, I won't get chased, but I hope I'll see lots of wild animals. So ask and answer the questions with your partner, please. Okay, now you have done that with your partner. We're going to listen and compare your answers with the answers on the CD.
Tape script 9.3.
I'm going on safari to Africa.
Oh dear, what will you do if you get chased by wild animals?
It'll be okay. I'll be in a car, so I won't get chased. But I hope I'll see lots of wild animals.
But what if it's the rainy season?
Don't be silly. I won't go when it's the rainy season.
Oh, but what if there are lots of insects? You hate insects.
I'm going to take lots of insect cream. It won't be a problem.
And the sun. It'll be so hot. What if you get sunburnt?
I'm going to take lots of sun cream too. I'll be fine.
But it'll be so frightening. What if you get lost in the bush?
Look, I won't be alone. I'll have a driver and a guide.
But what if your car breaks down?
I'm sure it won't. And if it does, the driver will mend it.
Oh, but at night, what if you have to sleep in a tent?
I'll be happy to sleep in a tent under the stars. It'll be exciting.
Rather you than me. All those wild animals and mosquitoes. Ugh.
Well, I'll love it. I just know I will.
Okay, so maybe not so sure that your conversations were exactly the same as that, but I hope you were managing to use the grammar, the first conditional. Lastly, for this page, I'd like you to make a similar conversation about one of the topics from the box. So we have learning to snowboard, going mountain climbing, giving up your job to travel the world, and joining the army. So remember, you need to think about what kind of problems might someone have if they are doing these things. Okay, so again with your partner, please. Okay, now we have finished that last exercise. I'd like you to close your student's book and I will give you some homework. Okay, so in your workbook, I'd like you to do page 50, questions 2, 3, and 4, and page 51, question 5. So if you turn to page 50, please. Okay, so let's have a look first at page 50, please. In question number 2, your friend is going on holiday and you can see some problems. So I'd like you to ask, using the prompts, make some questions that you're going to ask. So for example, what do miss plane? What will you do if you miss the plane? And in exercise 2, I'd like you to match the question with the answer. For example, number 1 is the answer is C. I won't miss it, I'll get there early. In exercise 3, I want you to make the sentences negative, but keep the meaning the same. So you might have to change some of the words. For example, we will leave the party before 10. That also means we won't stay at the party after 10. So the first one, positive grammar, the second one, negative grammar. But leave and stay, they are very different verbs. Also, before and after, they're very different time conjunctions. The next one, number 4, you need to complete the sentences using if, means possibility, or when, something which is sure. And on the next page, page 51, I'd like you to look at question number 5. Question number 5, you need to make most of them the first conditional. So you need to choose which tense, which correct form of the future are you going to use. Okay, that's it for homework. I hope you enjoyed the first day and I'll see you again soon for the next lesson. Goodbye.